This is 6 Minute English from bbclearningenglish.com.
Hi, welcome to this edition of 6 Minute English with me, Dima Kostenko.
And me, Rebecca Byrne. Hello. And today our topic is virtual conflict, or e-wars.
E-wars? I don't think I've heard that one before. Presumably it's one of the many words with the prefix E that have been mushrooming in recent years.
That's right.
Rebecca, perhaps you could do me a favour and begin by explaining what the prefix means and where it comes from.
Of course. So the prefix E basically stands for electronic. So in recent years, obviously, we've seen lots of nouns appear with this prefix.
Like email?
Like email, of course, which is the most famous one. But also we have words such as e-books, which I think we spoke about recently on 6 Minute English, but also e-tickets when you're booking your flights these days, and also even e-commerce or e-government.
Okay, it's true that in this series we regularly discuss all things digital. But why e-wars?
Well, it's because recently some senior officials in the field of telecommunications have been giving a rather grim warning that the next World War could take place online. One of them is the head of the International Telecommunication Union, Dr. Hamadoun Touré. He says cyber attacks could potentially be as damaging as natural disasters, and that our increasing reliance on e-communications makes even the most developed countries vulnerable to an attack by online criminals. We'll hear from Dr. Touré in a moment, but first, it's this week's question for you, Dima.
Okay, I'm ready.
In the next extract, Dr. Touré mentions 4 E-words: e-commerce, e-government, and 2 others. The question is, which one of the following 3 do you think he does not mention? Is it A, e-education, B, e-health, or C, e-transportation?
I definitely heard of e-education. I don't think I've ever heard of the other 2, e-health or e-transportation. Well, in fact, e-transportation really sounds to me like it comes from science fiction, meaning something like teleportation. So based on that, I'm going to say that e-transportation is not going to be mentioned.
Okay, well, we'll check your guess in a minute once we've listened to Dr. Touré. Don't forget to listen out for the 4 E-words and also for the following language. A tsunami, which is a huge destructive wave that is usually produced as a result of an earthquake, and dependent on cyberspace, meaning completely relying on being connected to the online network.
That's a tsunami, dependent on cyberspace, and 4 words with the prefix E. Ready? Here's Dr. Touré.
It's worse than a tsunami. Look how dependent we are on the cyberspace today. If we are cut off from the network today, there are some patients that will die in the hospital. We will not have education without e-education, health without e-health, commerce without e-commerce, and government without e-government.
Well, he does talk about e-education, e-commerce, e-government, and even e-health, whatever that means. But there's no mention of e-transportation, which means that my earlier guess was right.
Well done, Dima. Congratulations.
Well, never mind e-transportation. You'd better tell me what we do about it. How do we protect ourselves from online attacks or e-wars?
Well, Dr. Touré says there are a number of various safeguards already in place.
Safeguards. In other words, security measures or restrictions aimed at protecting someone from harm.
That's right. For example, it's already possible to track individual users through internet addresses, including those suspected of committing online crimes.
That's good to know. But I would think it's not always an easy task to determine straight away if someone's involved in cybercrime or not. My question is, isn't there a danger then that these restrictions, these safeguards, could sometimes be applied mistakenly?
Well, Dr. Touré specifically warns that any measures to protect against cybercrime must not lead to a curtailing of legitimate internet use. As you listen to him, look out for these word combinations: invading their privacy.
Meaning watching and or recording what people do in their own space and time.
Denying them that basic human right.
That's not giving people the opportunity to enjoy what they're entitled to.
And access to information.
Meaning the possibility or the means to find things out. Let's listen.
We have to be sure that protecting people in the cyberspace does not mean invading their privacy. Does not mean that denying them that's basic human right of access to information.
That was the head of the International Telecommunication Union, Dr. Hamadoun Toure.
And you can find out more about this story and about words with the prefix E simply by following the links from our website, bbclearningenglish.com. Well, before we go, here's another chance to go through some of today's key vocabulary.
We talked about the expression dependent on cyberspace. We said that a cyber attack could potentially be worse than a tsunami. Then there was the word a safeguard, meaning a security measure aimed at protecting someone from harm. We also had these word combinations: invading their privacy, meaning watching and or recording what people do in their own space and time, and access to information, meaning the means or the possibility to find things out.
I'm afraid that's all we have time for today. Until next week.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.
That was 6 Minute English from bbclearningenglish.com.